Today's episode is a wild ride. We're diving into a conversation that's equal parts jaw-dropping, infuriating, and honestly, a little bit hopeful. I'm BrightLearn, and this is the podcast where we dig into the stories that matter, the ones that make you think, wait, is this really happening? And trust me, today's topic is one of those. So, let me set the stage for you. This is an interview between Mike Adams, the founder of BrightLearn.com, and former Sheriff Richard Mack. Now, if you don't know who Richard Mack is, let me give you the quick rundown. This guy is a legend in the world of constitutional sheriffs. He's the founder of the Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association, CSPOA, and he's been fighting for liberty, the Constitution, and the rights of everyday Americans for decades. He's the kind of guy who doesn't just talk the talk, he walks the walk. And in this interview, he's pulling no punches. The conversation starts with Mike Adams introducing Sheriff Mack as a living hero of America. And honestly, after listening to this, I can see why. Mack's passion for the Constitution and his commitment to holding the line against corruption is inspiring. But let's get into the meat of it, because this is where things get really interesting. First up, the FBI. Mack has a unique perspective on the FBI because, get this, he actually tried to join them back in the day. He even has a yellow brick from the FBI National Academy, which is like a badge of honor for law enforcement professionals. But here's the kicker. Mack says the FBI he knew back then is nothing like the FBI we see today. He calls out the current FBI as universally corrupt, and he doesn't hold back. He says FBI agents are just following orders, comparing them to the Nuremberg officers who justified their actions during World War II. Ouch. And it's not just the FBI. Mack takes aim at the IRS too, saying IRS agents are just as complicit in the corruption. He calls out the immorality of going along to get along, and he's not wrong. How many times have we seen people justify unethical behavior because they're just doing their job? Mack's message is clear. If you're part of these agencies and you're enabling corruption, you're part of the problem. But here's where it gets really spicy. Mack and Adams start talking about Mark Zuckerberg and his recent admission that Meta censored the Hunter Biden laptop story because the Biden-Harris administration pressured them to do it. Mack calls this a huge allegation and says there should be an independent investigation. He's not wrong. This is a massive deal. If the FBI and other federal agencies are colluding with big tech to manipulate elections, that's a huge threat to our democracy. And speaking of elections, Mack doesn't hold back when it comes to the 2024 election. He says there are 3 possible scenarios. Trump could end up in prison. Trump could win, but face extreme violence blamed on him. Or, worst-case scenario, we could see a complete breakdown of our constitutional republic. He's not sugarcoating it, folks. Mack says we're in a critical moment, and if we don't take action, things could get really bad. But here's the thing. Mack isn't just doom and gloom. He's got a plan. He has organized a big event in Orlando, Florida called the Florida Foundation for Freedom Conference. This isn't just a meeting to wake people up. It's a call to action. Mack wants sheriffs, law enforcement, and everyday citizens to come together and prepare for what's coming. He's talking about protecting our infrastructure, safeguarding our elections, and standing up to corruption. And honestly, it's hard not to feel a little hopeful listening to him. But let's not forget the personal side of this story. Mack shares some incredible details about his own life, like how he sued the federal government over the Brady Bill and won a landmark Supreme Court case. He also talks about how the FBI and IRS targeted him just days before an election, effectively destroying his chances of winning. It's a chilling reminder of how far these agencies will go to silence their critics. And then there's the spiritual side of things. Mack and Adams both agree that we're in a spiritual war as much as a political one. Mack says we need to repent and turn back to God if we want to save our nation. It's a powerful message, and whether you're religious or not, it's hard to deny that there's a moral crisis in this country. So what's the takeaway from all of this? First, we've got to wake up. The corruption in our federal agencies is real, and it's a threat to everything we hold dear. Second, we've got to take action. Mack's event in Orlando is a great place to start, but it's not enough. We need to hold our leaders accountable, protect our elections, and stand up for the Constitution. And finally, we've got to have hope. Mack ends the interview with a quote from John Quincy Adams. "Duty is ours, results are God's." It's a reminder that we've got to do our part, but ultimately, we're not in this alone. All right, that's it for today's episode. If you want to learn more about Sheriff Richard Mack and the CSPOA, head over to cspoa.org. And if you're as fired up as I am, share this episode with your friends. Let's get the word out and start taking action. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time. This is BrightLearn, signing off. Stay curious, stay informed, and most importantly, stay bold.
This has been a BrightLearn.ai summary of an interview between Richard Mack and Mike Adams on August 29, 2024. The full interview is available at brighteon.com, where you can also find podcasts and special reports by Mike Adams and other creators. Visit naturalnews.com for full editorial coverage of this interview and breaking news on critical stories that will keep you informed and aware of what's really going on.